Hey everyone, Anthony Venuto here with InTouch Mortgage Solutions. It's Friday, Finance Fridays, and thank you again for clicking. On this episode, we're going to be talking about multiple offers and are we going to enter into a housing crisis in the future? Stay tuned, you don't want to miss this. Over the course of the past few weeks, we've been working with a lot of our first-time home buyers and a lot of clients that are basically resurfacing. A lot of individuals who had pre-approvals back in 2021 and late 2022 are starting to come back to the market. They're looking to gain new pre-approvals and go out and purchase. Now, one thing I want to point to is with individuals like this, we're starting to see a trend happening. Now remember, 1 month isn't necessarily a trend, but over the last several weeks, we have seen a significant uptick in pre-approvals and individuals going to put in offers. And having conversations with a lot of our clients to understand their wants and goals and their financing, dreams of what they want to do, a lot of them had told me that they decided to put their decisions on hold back in 2022 as interest rates started to creep up and home prices were starting to come down. And obviously, rightfully so, a lot of these individuals may have made a proper decision based on their financial situations. A lot of them did not want to compete in multiple offers. A lot of them did not want to participate in home prices at the levels they were at in 2021 and early 2022. But now they're facing different headwinds as they're emerging in the market in 2023. And obviously some of those headwinds are qualification issues where now we're qualifying at much higher rates, and also home prices that have come down significantly, which is a plus on that, on that checklist for a lot of clients as they're looking to gain entryway into some of the homes that were previously well overpriced, and now they're able to access these types of homes. However, as I mentioned, qualifications being concerned, a lot of individuals also are very conscientious about a few other aspects of the housing market. One being obviously OSFI, which is the Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions, something we talked about a few episodes ago, where OSFI met early in January to discuss potential for future regulatory changes coming down the pipeline, and we should be hearing from them in April. Now, if they decide to implement some new rules, obviously it could put a lot of further complications on future home buyers. So a lot of individuals want to try to get into the market before these changes may come into effect. A lot of individuals that we're talking to are very concerned about the immigration policy here in Canada and what it means for them to purchase a home in the future, especially at the magnitude of immigration that Canada has now implemented. So having that conversation with our clients, I wanted to do a little bit of research for them, and I presented them with an analysis report that they could look at their own leisure, and I wanted to touch on it just a little bit here, and it does warrant a lot of their concerns. So Benjamin Tal from CIBC publishes an in-focus analysis, and this time he's talking about immigration and the perceived demand for housing. And in this actual analysis, it's very interesting. Whether you agree with Benjamin Tal or not, I think the analysis points us in a good direction to further understand the numbers. So when Canada talks about immigration, well, there's permanent residents and non-permanent residents. And what he's pointing to here is that a lot of permanent residents were already in Canada, whether it be during the pandemic, who are basically already putting a lot of pressure on the current housing supply or the stock right now because they're renting or living with family or purchased a home. We have to keep in mind that a lot of these permanent residents, as soon as they get status, they're eligible to purchase a home and forego the foreign buyer's tax because they are permanent citizens, or permanent residencies, I should say, residents. And a lot of these individuals are adequately prepared to purchase homes. A lot of the ones we've talked to and helped them secure financing and purchase a home, well, they have great jobs, they have the down payment, they established their credit over the few years that they've been here, and they're able to purchase. What Benjamin Tal in this analysis is talking about is the arrivals, the new arrivals into Canada, not the ones that are here. And that the numbers represented by Immigration, Refugees, Citizenship, Canadian Citizenship, IRCC, are actually, the numbers that we should, be avoiding because those numbers are actually misrepresented. So he's saying that Stats Canada and the IRCC actually don't report or not reporting the proper numbers. They're what is considered the official numbers, but what they're looking at is how many visas have been issued to non-Canadians, those abroad. And he points to around 1.4 million visas being issued to people that can come into Canada at any given time. And obviously, he talks about how these new arrivals into Canada are actually going to continue to put a lot of downward pressure on the housing market and the limited infrastructure or stock. Now, obviously, this is something that he talks about with Ukraine. Obviously, a lot of Ukrainians that came over through the Ukrainian Emergency Act to bring them into Canada. We're talking about students as travel reopens. This is something that's very important because a lot of these students and a lot of these new to Canada individuals who may be coming here with a work permit may end up staying in Canada once they become permanent residents and purchasing a home or taking part in the inventory of renting a home and that stock being depleted. So when we look at the development side of this equation, a lot of Canadians might be concerned with this, right? So we have obviously limited inventory coming to market in the resale space. Sales down significantly and home prices are down, but we're starting to see these multiple offers come back. And on top of it, we had higher immigration standards as Canada brings in a lot of new arrivals, not just the permanent residents that are already in Canada, but the ones that will be coming over the next little while, which are actually estimated, according to Benjamin Tal, higher than 465,000 for the year of 2022. He's estimating it to be around 955,000. Now, obviously, how long this can last for is another question, but eventually all these individuals, 35% of them generally end up in Ontario. So he's talking about this here, and then we talk about development side. So talking to some individuals that we know that are, pre-sale condo agents as well as pre-construction home agents, well, a lot of this inventory is actually being taken off the market. Now, there are some condos that will continue along because those projects have been passed and ready to go. But they might be releasing limited inventory. A lot of these pre-construction condos might actually take that inventory, future inventory off the shelf and wait to actually launch it. And although you may be asking your question, well, why would they be doing that? Well, for a lot of these developers, they have to look at their bottom dollar. They have to look at the cost to finance. If they're self-financing these projects, well, they have the money. But if they're looking to go out and get financing to start the project, well, those costs are much more expensive. And not to mention the actual cost for labor. So when these projects go to tender, which means they go to find these contracts and trades to fill these jobs and build these units, well, those jobs are more expensive. So they have to take that into consideration, and they also have to meet a quota in order for pre-sales to actually get into the next leg of financing. And generally, some condos, from what we gathered from our clients, because we're working with a few of them, it's around 60 to 75% of those units have to be sold in order for that project to extend. Now, obviously, over the last little while, we've had a conversation about paper flippers and these individuals who, back when rates were much lower and home prices were on a higher trajectory, well, they purchased a few units. Well, some of these units may be coming to the market, especially if they're not able to close. Some things that we should be paying attention to is builder inventory. And one more thing I just was thinking about as we're talking about this housing, supply, are we going to be hitting this crisis point, not necessarily now, but in the next few years, is as we look at some of the individuals that might be finding their financing situation more challenging when it comes to what their mortgage payments are. Those who have variable rate mortgages, obviously much more expensive as those policy rates and interest rates go up or stay the same. The weathering that storm for a long period of time can put a lot of pressure on household finances. So a lot of these individuals might be holding on right now, but this inventory may hit the market in the future. But at the current moment, we're not seeing any anecdotal evidence from individuals with major banks that are going to be coming to market. A lot of the individuals that we have spoken to or hear through the grapevine are in private mortgages. Those are individuals that their mortgages are not able to be renewed, something we talked about in another episode. But speaking to some individuals who actually work in the wholesale buying space where they purchase homes off market, a lot of the situations that we're hearing from them is that these are private mortgages that are not renewed, forcing clients to sell the home. So if we take that and we extrapolate that, if there's the situations in private mortgages, well, how many individuals in Canada have private mortgages and how many of them are not able to be renewed? What's happening with mortgage distress sales? Well, are these power of sales going to come to the market? I think it's a little bit too early to tell right now. It's also the winter months. It hasn't hit spring market. And obviously, as that data rolls out, but if we don't see this uptick in homes coming to market due to distressed sales, and we don't see a lot of Canadians looking to engage in the market or list their homes for sale, because maybe some of them have a good 5-year fixed rate and they're like, you know what, we're not going to break out of this mortgage or not going to port our mortgage. And there's not a lot of development happening or a lot of pre-construction happening that is going to hit the market. But obviously we see that there's a lot of inventory not going to be produced as housing stats, or housing starts I should say, are actually at an all-time low for the month of January. So this is something also that if we continue on this trajectory, well, there's not going to be a lot of new homes built or purpose-built rentals being produced. And as I mentioned, we have immigration at an all-time high, or the idea that immigration is going to be producing a lot more inhabitants in Canada, which is going to be putting a lot more pressure not only on rentals, but on the existing housing stock. And if we don't have these developments building, you have more people taking up the same amount of inventory that's already in existence. And then you have buyers going out with limited resale numbers. Well, it can spell, it can be the recipe for the perfect storm or for a disaster to happen in the next little while. But I want to know your thoughts. Do you think we're going to be entering a housing crisis in the next few years if we don't see inventory pick up? And based on the current situation, what do you think could happen in the next few years? Let us know in the comments sections below. But we're going to leave the video here. And if you like the content that we're producing on our Finance Fridays episodes, please don't hesitate to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Hit that notification bell so you get notified every time we post a video like this. And we wish everyone a great Friday and an even better weekend ahead. Thanks for clicking, and we'll see you next week.